Hey, folks, what's up? Welcome to TY's Corner. It is April the 6th, 2021, in case you forgot what year it is. I am not Ty. I am filling in for Ty for the time being. I want to thank all of you guys who are watching here in the United States and across the globe. Today, I was just going to go over some basic news and just, stuff that's happening, maybe recommend a couple of shows. But boy, oh boy, this morning, an article from the Hollywood Reporter, a reputable magazine, dropped, and it's a deep dive. So literally 99.9% of today's episode of TY's Corner is going to be about the Ray Fisher article. It's a doozy, but we are going to go over some more DC stuff. I do want to go over the trailer for Batman The Long Halloween. If you've never read the graphic novel, it is arguably one of the best graphic novels of all time. But first, some housekeeping. Today's episode is sponsored by Bonk's Bar. In fact, here I am. I'll be at Bonk's in about an hour and a half. If you are at Bonk's Bar and you happen to see me, your first drink is on me. So if you're in the Philadelphia area, stop by Bonk's Bar. Your first drink is on Pop Culture Corner. They have wonderful wings. In fact, I'll be getting some wings tonight. I love their wings. They have great seafood. Even if you don't like seafood, like me, it is incredibly delicious. If you're interested in becoming a patron, look at the links in the description below. We need your support. We can't do this show without your support. I genuinely appreciate it, and I know everyone else, I know Ty appreciates it, Justice appreciates it, and we do want to thank our current patrons. We have Caden Reed, Nick DePalma, ODD or Odd, and that Juan Carlos. That's Juan Carlos. If you are new to the show, please like, share, and subscribe. If you don't like the show, still like, share, and subscribe. We could use the support. We ask you to join us. Share your comments below. I'm sure you guys are going to have a lot to say about this article. Woo, boy. There's a lot to talk about. But first things first, let's start on a positive note. Let me just say hi to everyone who's here. We got Billy Roberts. The Long Halloween trailer dropped. That's what we're going to do. We're going to do that first, and we're going to get to the that article, because I might need 3 episodes to cover that article. It's a lot in that article. Cameron, how are you guys? Thank you so much for supporting me. I really appreciate you guys coming out. Ty is taking some time off. He was here yesterday and did a show. It was actually really fun, but I want you to keep him in your oh, he's right there. He's stalking me. He's trying to stop my coup d'etat. I'm trying to take over the show slowly. There we go. Hey, boys, and what an article indeed. So let's get into it. I mean, let's stop listening to me, and let's get into it. I have it queued up, so I'm gonna share the video, and I'm gonna share that specific tab. Hopefully, Warner Brothers is like, don't promote us. All right, guys, let me make sure that looks fine. Beautiful. Okay, great. Here we go. Let me know if you guys should hear it. I have the audio on. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
I can't really be a lawyer and a criminal, can I? I want to win. But do I want to win like this? I'm of 2 minds here.
So it's a coin flip.
Johnny Vitti was murdered tonight. Falcone crime family has to be taken down.
There's only room for one homicidal maniac in this town.
Why are you running?
You could use a little fun.
I thought you didn't hurt people!
You thought wrong.
You still haven't figured out who killed Johnny Vitti?
A killer who only works on holidays. There's lots of crazy out there.
Once I take him out, things are going to be different. We can start a family.
The city is fallen, Alfred, and we must endeavor to lift it up again.
Who is Holiday?
And who's next?
Well, I gotta say that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. Look, in the comments below, how many of you have read The Long Halloween? It's one of the few graphic novels I've read many, many times. Each time I watch it, I always pick up something. It is a great graphic novel. I thought that looked tight. And Jensen Ackles from Supernatural. Oh, maybe you're not happy about that. Oh, I'm so hyped. Okay, yeah, that looks really cool. That looks good. And obviously, The Dark Knight heavily borrowed from The Long Halloween. You know the Carmine Falcone, and the Maroni family, and Harvey Dent's kind of arc. From hero to villain, that was heavily influenced by The Long Halloween. And I believe it's part 1. So they're not going to cram this into a 70-minute movie. They're going to stop doing the 70-minute movies, honestly. These are long stories. Do a 2-hour movie with animation. I know it's expensive, but just do a 2-hour movie. Let the story breathe, like the Snyder Cut. Let it breathe. And yeah, the graphic novel. And what's the second one called? Dark Victory. That's another good one. It's just kind of like a follow-up to that one. But yeah, I think that looks great. I think that looks wonderful. And Jensen Ackles, this is the first time he's done Batman. Because I know they have Jason Mara, and occasionally they'll have Kevin Conroy, but I think that might be Jensen's first Batman. I could be wrong, but he sounded great. I would have never have guessed that was him until Ty said it, and I looked it up. That was really wonderful. But that looks really lit. I'm not gonna lie, that looks really, really cool. But how many of you? He did the Red Hood one before. Oh, okay. The Red Hood one was pretty good too. I like that one a lot. But let's say, look, what I'm kind of anxious to get to, and I know what a lot of you are kind of anxious to get to, is the Hollywood Reporter article. And listen, I've read it a couple of times. I read it in the parking lot. I was taking my dad to get for his doctor's appointment. I read it like 3 times because in some ways there's a lot in there. In other ways, I don't know if I learned. Oh, he was Red Hood. Okay, he was Red Hood, but not Batman. But too bad this was a distraction. Yeah, let's get into it because I don't know if there's that much new we learned, but there's a lot to go over. But let me pull it up right now. I already have it pulled up because I was prepared. Here we go. I'm going to share the screen. I'm going to do it so we can all. Let me see. I want to make sure I got the right one, the Hollywood Reporter. Okay. So I have it pulled up here, and I'm going to see if I can make it full screen. You don't have to see me. There we go. Okay, I thought he'd play Batman. Okay, all right, cool. Let's get into this. Can you guys read this nice and clear? What I could do is maybe increase the font, make it a little bit bigger. Is that better? If you guys can read that, I think that's a little bit better. Yeah, I'm taking myself out because there's a lot to go in here. Look, here's what I'm going to say. If it seems like there was a lot of either miscommunication and a lot of hearsay and a lot of inferences. And by that, I mean someone said something, they inferred something else. And the stuff about Joss, it's pretty clear. There's a lot of stuff about Joss. Let me go to the article myself. Issues over Booyah that created tension. There was a lot of things I read in here that created tension. There were a lot of things I was like, that did not have to be an issue. Yeah, the Booyah thing was not necessary, but I remember some fans were like, oh, he has to say Booyah because that's what he said in Teen Titans, and there were fans who were like begging for that. Yeah, I'm going to take the comments off. Here we go. You guys are able to still hear me, right? I'm still here. Yep, I'm still here. Okay, so I'm going to go through this as thoroughly as I can, and there's a lot here. So here we go. Ever since June 2020, when he fired off a tweet accusing Joss Whedon of gross, abusive, unprofessional, and completely unacceptable conduct on the set of Justice League, the 33-year-old actor has used social media and a series of interviews to lob serious allegations of racist behavior and a cover-up at Warner Brothers. Okay. For Fisher, who plays Cyborg in the film, the issue is no longer so much what happened on the set in 2017 after director Zack Snyder was replaced by Joss Whedon, though he's ready to explain that too. His unrelenting focus in recent months has been the way executives, first at the Warner Film Studio and then at its parent, Warner Media, handled allegations raised by himself and others. Warner Media has previously said that remedial action was taken as a result of its investigation, but has not elaborated. A spokesperson tells THR that for privacy and legal reasons, our policy is not to disclose the findings or the results of an investigation. So right off the bat, I will say this. We're going to get into, so we know what Joss Whedon did, and we know that Ray was not alone in facing this issue. You know, we know that we know that, unfortunately, Charisma Carpenter, Amber Benson, Michelle Trachtenberg, Sarah Michelle Gellar, he's fired. And they're going to get into that, you know, that he's either fired or he was let go. They play it very politically correct. But when it comes to the racism thing, from what I'm reading, this is my personal interpretation. There was a lot of hearsay, because we learned things about Jeff Johns that I did not know, up until including the fact that he was married to a black woman, which somehow kind of might explain his comment that he said to someone on the set of Krypton. But let's get back into it. I want you to guys hit me in the comments. Here we go. Catherine Forrest, a former federal judge who conducted the Warner Media probe, tells THR in a statement that in interviews with more than 80 witnesses, she found no credible support for claims of racial animus or racial insensitivity. A Warner Media spokesperson notes that the company made extraordinary efforts to accommodate Mr. Fisher's concern about the investigation and to ensure its fullness and fairness, and has complete confidence in the investigation process and Forrest's conclusion. Look, there's no doubt to me that there was, without doubt, gross negligence. But when it comes to the word racism, I am very, very much a person who says, you got to show me what had happened. And for me, at least, the examples that were given didn't do it for me. But we're going to get to that. I want you to tell me what you guys think. Here we go. Because I want to be fair. I want to be fair to both sides. I have been on Ray's side from the beginning. I want to see him back with with Zack Snyder in Justice League 2 and Justice League 3. I want to see him in the Flash movie. I want to see him maybe get his own solo movie. But let's go. It goes into his family life. Fisher was raised by a single mother and his grandmother in Lawnside, New Jersey. Hey, that's nearby me. A community that he notes was the first self-governing black municipality north of the Mason-Dixon line. He says he felt a new sense of urgency to speak out when the pandemic hit and the Black Lives Matter protesters took to the street. So right off the bat, you kind of see that his background is he's very proud that he's from if anyone doesn't know what the Mason-Dixon line is, it was the imaginary line that separated the North from the South during the Civil War. And this was the first black minister. So he has a little bit of pride about his heritage. And that's something cool. And we're going to see that kind of pop up later on in the article. There we go. To Fisher, who had few screen credits playing the half-man, half-machine Cyborg, the first black superhero in the DC film universe, was both a huge career break and a major responsibility. Justice League was released the year before Marvel broke ground with Black Panther. To be fair, though, we did see Black Panther in Captain America Civil War. But what is interesting about him being the first black superhero, that's going to be part of what the issues he had moving on. While Fisher has dropped details and names, outsiders have struggled to understand how did Whedon incur his anger. Did Fisher really declined to participate in an investigation that was launched in response to his own complaints, as Warner's claimed in September. We all know that that's not true, but that's going to be addressed later on. Was Fisher fighting a righteous battle or a quixotic one? Sorry, quixotic one. I'm going to look up what the hell that word means. Quixotic, exceedingly idealistic. Okay, so quixotic, ideally on that's kind of what Justice, not anymore, but Justice kind of felt at first that maybe he's just trying to, make some noise for the sake of making noise. Once a quixotic one when he set out on a path that appears to have cost him a place in the DC film universe. Now, in many hours of conversation, Fisher tells his side. Much of his previous reluctance to spell out the story, he says, arose because he didn't and still doesn't want to expose the identities of others who shared their stories with him and investigators. I'm not looking to have any witnesses lose their jobs, he says. Those include some who won't seem to have any worries about job security. They list Gal Gadot, Jason Momoa. Others who were not involved with Justice League also spoke to Fisher, and in some cases, the investigators about experiences with Whedon and with Jeff Johns, who was co-chairman of DC Films and a producer on the film. They include Charisma Carpenter, who recently wrote on social media of Whedon's alleged abusiveness on Buffy the Vampire Slayer and on the show Angel, which is not mentioned, and individuals who had worked with Johns on Sci-Fi's Krypton. Fisher got Warner to start an investigation more than 2 years after the first version of the film was released, but he soon found the process to be suspicious. The studio and the parent company seemed to be focused on protecting top executives. Let me just tell you that's not just film studios. That's every company, unfortunately. That is every company. That is every company. Whether it's McDonald's, whether it's KFC, whether it's the local laundromat. The process moved in, starts and stops, and when he felt forced to ramp up his public protest, the studio responded with what Fisher called a deliberate smear. Warner's maintains that it has done everything necessary to address Fisher's concerns. He still wants an apology. So this is, of course, from July 1st, 2020. Joss Whedon's on set. Well, you guys have read this. Let me just take a pause right here and just check the comment section, because I'm sure a lot of you have a lot to say. Here we go. Everyone's worried. Where we go. I hate Jeff Johns. There's Caden Reed. Where you been, Caden? Caden is too cool for us nowadays. I'm on spring break, so I've been sleeping in sometimes. It confirmed everything I learned last week. I don't know if there's much new stuff that we learned, because we heard a lot, but let's get into it, because we haven't gotten to the juicy stuff yet. Let's get to the juicy stuff, because that's what we're really here for. In May 2017, Fisher was walking into a movie in New York when he got a call from Zack Snyder that left him stunned. Snyder was leading Justice League, talking about his daughter's suicide. Sources say Snyder was under enormous pressure at the time. The studio was unhappy with the reception. See, we already know this. Insisted on a lighter touch. Warner's also asked Snyder to produce a 2-hour cut that he had a wrenching time delivering. Ultimately, Snyder left. Whedon had written and directed Marvel's Avengers, yada, yada, took the helm. We already know this. The Justice League that Fisher had signed up for was a far cry from the film that Whedon ended up finishing. Snyder had Fisher talk at length with screenwriter Chris Terrio before there even was a script. Zack and I always considered Cyborg's story to be the heart of the movie. And it's so nice that we've actually seen the movie now, that we can actually know what they're talking about. He has the most pronounced character arc of any of the heroes, beginning from a place of despair and ending with a feeling that, quote, he is whole and that he is loved. And Terrio says he and Snyder took the portrayal of the first black superhero in the DC film universe very seriously, adding, quote, with a white writer and a white director, we both thought having the perspective of an actor of color was really important. And Ray is really good with story and character, so he became a partner in creating Victor. This is interesting, because I think this kind of goes into why he reacted the way he did, why there was such passion behind his frustrations. Because now we're learning right here that he actually was cast not only before they wrote the script, but he had a little bit of input on how Cyborg was going to be portrayed, how Victor Stone should be portrayed. That doesn't mean he wrote the script, or anything, or that he should get a producer's credit, but they took input from him. And this is going to conflict later on with his interactions with Joss Whedon. When filming proceeded under Whedon, says Fisher, he came to feel that he had to, quote, explain some of the most basic points of what would have been offensive to the black community. Okay, so this is where we get into the sort of the choppy waters. After Fisher's reps were told that Whedon planned to make major revisions to the film, he, meaning Ray Fisher, flew from New Jersey to meet with the filmmaker in LA. When the two met at a bar, Fisher says Whedon, quote, was tiptoeing around the fact that everything was changing. As he left the meeting, Fisher was handed the revised script, and which he read twice on the plane back. Gone was Cyborg's traumatic backstory, his relationship with his mother, whose loving scenes with her son were eliminated, as was the accident that killed her. The material was restored later. There we go. This is the line from Ray. It represents that his parents are two genius-level black people. Fisher says we don't see that every day. Okay? Whedon sent out an email. So this is where sometimes the inferences come in, which, again, I take with a grain of salt. Whedon sent out an email asking for questions, comments, or fulsome praise. Fulsome praise, but Fisher says it becomes clear all he was looking for was fulsome praise, trying to strike a jocular tone. So jocular meaning, I guess he was trying to say it in jest as, kind of as a joke, like, hey, give me some praise. That's what fulsome means. Like I think I always thought fulsome praise. It sounds a bit redundant, like praising praise. Again, even if he did it as a joke, that's not a strike to me. It's just whatever. They brought Joss Whedon in to make it a funny movie. They were getting what they paid for. Fisher responded that he mourned the loss of the cyborg material, but was moving on. Because remember, at this point, he's still going to have his own movie. He's still going to be in Flash. He said he had notes to avoid issues in terms of representation on the character. But in a call with Whedon, Fisher says that he had barely started to talk when the filmmaker cut him off. Quote, it feels like I'm taking notes right now, and I don't like taking notes from anybody, not even Robert Downey Jr., he said. Other sources on the project say Whedon was similarly dismissive of Godot and Momoa when they questioned new lines. All right, let me just step in here and say something. That is not too uncommon. That is not that uncommon. Certain directors want input. They want to know what you're saying. They want to know your thoughts. Some directors like, no. Stanley Kubrick was like that. James Cameron's like that. James Cameron has a great story about him arguing with Arnold about I'll be back. He's like, it's my effing script. You're the actor. You worry about the acting. I'll worry about the script. Some directors are like that. Joss Whedon may very well be like that. So I'm not going to say that it was him being racist. He's just like, I don't take notes even for Robert Downey Jr. And that might be true. He doesn't take notes from Robert Downey Jr. I wrote the script. You're going to follow the script. And that's how it is. Some directors are like that. Some directors, they want your input. When Tarantino writes his characters, he knows what his characters are going to be like. So again, this is me playing devil's advocate. That's not that big a deal. Some directors, they don't want to hear crap from you. They don't care how great an actor you are. They don't want to hear crap from you. And vice versa, Daniel Day-Lewis is like that as an actor. Spielberg said when he played Lincoln, I didn't tell him what to do. He knew what to do. He didn't need that much direction. He had done the research. So, again, I'm not defending Joss as much as I'm saying that's common. Some directors don't want to take notes. Whedon declined to comment. Do you know what Whedon should do? He should go on Oprah. Just go on Oprah for I would pay to see that. I would pay for the Oprah Winfrey Network just to see him go on Oprah, like the royal family. What was it? Meghan and Harry, and just go full out and be like, this is what happened. Fisher turned to Johns, who he said had presented himself as a kind of a mediator. So here we go. This is where I am a little bit skeptical about some of the hatred towards Jeff Johns, just because when you're in a corporate situation, or anytime you're in a situation where you have to mediate between two parties, you will often be kind of relegated as the bad guy. So if I'm kind of control, let's say, and I've experienced this in life, in school, in business, you have to kind of bridge two people together. You will at some point make one of them happy and one of them upset, right? They're not always win. Exactly. And here we go. Joss Whedon has beef with everyone he works with. We know that. That's kind of his issue. But here's the thing with Jeff Johns. If he's acting as Meter, and the same thing maybe even with Hamada, as we're going to read. But here we go. We can't make Joss mad. Fisher says his ultimate response is, we can't make Joss mad. Because at this point, Joss Whedon is kind of a big deal. All right, he's done Avengers, he's done Age of Ultron, he's kind of at the top of the world. And Warner Brothers is probably looking to him like, hey, we don't want to piss this guy off. Let him do whatever he wants to do. Remember, they haven't seen Justice League. Justice League hasn't come out yet. So they're trusting Joss Whedon 100%. For them, they're like, hey, we got Joss Whedon. What a great deal. We got Joss Whedon. Yay. We got Joss Whedon. So they're all like, hey, this worked out great for us. Let him do his thing. He's Joss Whedon. He made the Avengers $1.5 billion, and he's going to do the same for us. Didn't work out that way. But at the time, that's what they thought was going to happen. Here we go. Publicist Howard Bragman, who represents Johns, denies that. Okay. But Johns recalls suggesting that any creative pitches should happen when Joss Whedon was not preoccupied, so he would be most receptive. It seems to me they're kind of having a hands-off approach with Joss Whedon. They said to Joss, do your thing. This is the movie we had. Whatever Zack did not work. Batman vs. Superman didn't make the money we want to do. We want you to make this a Marvel movie. And so it seems to me that that's Jeff Johns' way of saying, like, just whatever. He made the Avengers. He's made $2 billion movies. Let's trust him. Let's just trust him and see where it goes for them. Remember, they haven't seen Justice League yet. And we know that they weren't happy with it. But here we go. Let's continue. Again, I'm trying to play it fair here on both sides. Once Whedon got involved, Fisher says that Johns told him that it was problematic that Cyborg... Okay, so this is the one I really wanted to get into. Once Joss Whedon got involved, Fisher says that Johns told him that it was problematic that Cyborg smiled only twice in the movie. Fisher says he later learned from a witness who participated in the investigation that Johns and other top executives, including then DC Films co-chairman John Berg and Warner Studios chief Toby Emmerich, had discussions in which they could not have, quote, an angry black man at the center of the film. John's rep responds that once the chairman of the studios mandated a brighter tone for the film, all other discussions centered on, quote, adding joy and hopefulness to all superheroes. There are always conversations about avoiding any stereotype of race, gender, or sexuality. Okay, let that play devil's advocate. I can understand where they're coming from, because right now we are in a very politically correct, woke atmosphere. Warner Brothers was afraid that if we make Ben Affleck smile, Ben Affleck's goofy smile when he sees Superman, he's like, and Flash is smiling, and Gal Gadot is smiling, and Wonder Woman is smiling, just like an Avengers movie. If we have one black guy, because here's the thing, the stereotype has been, it's not true, it's stupid, but there are stereotypes, that a lot of them that Hollywood helped create. There's a lot of stereotypes about a lot of religions and ethnicities that Hollywood has had a big hand in creating. That's fine. One of the stereotypes is that black men are always angry. It's not true, but that is a stereotype. And I could imagine this super ultra woke kind of thing, like, oh, dude, if we do that to the first black superhero in the DC extended universe, we might get crap for that. And it might be seen as that we're trying to, we're typecasting the black guy. In Marvel, they always seem to make the black guy the quippy guy, whether it's Rhodey, whether it's Falcon, but just those two. But like, it's possible, very much possible. Like, you know what? We want to avoid that. It's sort of like showing like an Asian guy good at math or something like that, or a Spanish person as a construction worker. These are stereotypes, and they want to avoid that. I can understand that. I'm saying I agree with it. I'm not saying I'm for it. But what I am saying is that, okay, the reasoning is stupid, but I also understand that the political culture we're in right now, that if you do something any which way the wrong way, you can get yourself a whole bunch of articles saying the one African-American character in this was played as an angry black person, So Again, I don't think, and yes, they will have conversations about this. You think that every movie they have, they're not talking about race, gender, sexual orientation, all that stuff in their movies because they're afraid they might offend someone? It's happening all the time. It's happening with all of our television shows, all of our movies. I'm not saying that's good or bad. It's actually probably to some degree a good thing that they are having those discussions. This seems like that might be one of them. But Ray might have taken it the wrong way because they don't want to have that negative stereotype in the movie. I'll give you an example. Who saw that, if you were unfortunate, who saw the new Ghostbusters movie, the one that had the all-female one? There were some issues. Well, like we have 4 women, 1 black woman, and the 1 black woman, she's the one who's not a scientist. The white women are, but the black woman isn't. So Hollywood does this thing where they're trying to be, instead of just telling a goddamn story, they're like, well, how does this look? How does this look? Oh, we can't have an angry black man. Oh, let's make him smile. You know, it's a stupid point, but I'm not surprised that happened. And I don't think that they were being malicious. They're probably like, okay, we got to make sure that that we don't upset African Americans, Hispanic Americans, transgender Americans, Asian Americans, Chinese Americans, Martian Americans. We got to make sure everything's cool. And then they overcomplicate stuff like this. Because look, the Snyder Cut came out. Did anyone complain about Ray Fisher's performance? Was anyone like, oh my God, why did they make him so angry? No. But in boardrooms, yeah, they complain about stuff like this. Sorry. That's something I want to bring up. That was it. Because I'm not saying that's them being racist. That's them overthinking something. Johns told Fisher that he should play the character less like Frankenstein and more like the kind-hearted Quasimodo. If you guys ever read Victor Hugo's The Hunchback of Notre Dame, that's what they're talking about there. Let me put this up back in full mode so you guys can see it a little bit better. Fisher says that in order to demonstrate the look he wanted, John dipped his shoulder in what struck Fisher as a servile posture. See, again, now that's just assumption because Quasimodo kind of does this. Because he's a hunchback. He's interpreting it as a servile position. Let's keep reading. To Fisher, there was one big difference between portraying a character who was born with a disability versus one who had been transformed by trauma. Agreed. And he felt Cyborg was a modern day Frankenstein. I don't know, Frankenstein. Well, first of all, Frankenstein, the monster is not named Frankenstein. I'm sorry. This is me being a bit of a the monster's name is not Frankenstein. It's Frankenstein's monster. Frankenstein's the guy who made it. So in this case, Dr. Silas Stone would be Frankenstein. Just gotta clarify, but I know what he means. And to be fair, though, Frankenstein is the monster is kind of a villain, a misunderstood villain, but a villain. I didn't have any intention of playing him as jovial cathedral cleaning individual because Quasimodo. Okay, I understand that, but again, this is what look. I blame the fans, all of you who overreacted when BVS came out, who just went on. So not you guys who are watching the show. You guys are cool. Let me see if you guys can see me. You guys are cool. But the ones who are like, oh, they ruined Batman, they ruined Superman, and like just complained endlessly. Warner Brothers was like, oh crap, we got to fix this. Get Joss Whedon. Make the black guy happy. Just fix these things. They did that because people were watching and people were like, we got to fix these things. Ah, boy. And look where we are now. John's representative responds, quote, Jeff gave a note using a fictional character as an example of a sympathetic man who is unhappy and has an inclination to hide from the world. Oh. But one whom the audience roots for because he has a courageous heart. That's Quasimodo. That is Quasimodo. That's Frankenstein's monster in like the first half of the novel before he goes kind of homicidal. People just hate him because he's ugly. But I don't think you can say that, people... you wouldn't call Frankenstein's monster a hero, but whatever. I think they're both wrong. They're both wrong. Terrible analogies. Fisher told Johns it might be one thing for a non-black person to write a character for a comic, but it was another for a black actor to portray that character on screen. It was like he was now assuming how black people would respond rather than taking the advice from the only black person, as far as I know, with any kind of creative impact on the project, says Fisher says. See, again, stuff like this can get very testy. Because look, people write characters of different ethnicities all the time. It happens. That's nothing new. I once wrote a small stage story that was set in Renaissance Italy. I am not Italian, but I wrote it. And if you think that every African American or person of color character has been written by a person of color, that's not true. That's definitely not true. But again, here I think maybe Ray. I think Ray. What bothers Ray here is that he had so much info. Chris Terrio and Zack Snyder took input for them. But at the moment, Warner Brothers is scrambling to make a new movie, and they don't want any input. And we know that's not just happening with Ray Fisher. It's happening with Gal. It's happening with Jason. It's happening with Ben. Ezra Miller's just sitting there quietly like, just keep me out of this. I just want my Flash movie. And then he goes ahead and chokes someone. Fisher says John did not yield. That was the last creative conversation about anything that Jeff Johns and I had. I knew I was on my own, Fisher says. Johns' rep denies that he ever dismissed any comments, adding that Fisher knew Johns, whose spokesperson requested that he be identified as Lebanese American. So this is interesting. This is Jeff Johns kind of pulling the race card a little bit because Jeff Johns is half Lebanese, which makes him Middle Eastern. And now, Lebanese people are often considered Arab. They're not really Arab, although they are in the Middle East and they do speak Arabic. They're not Semitic people. It's interesting that they put that in there, like maybe throw the race card back at you. Yeah, well, I'm half Middle Eastern. Yeah. Had evolved traditionally all white properties. So Jeff Johns had done this, like Shazam, Justice Society of America, and others in a diverse groups of heroes, and his extensive work as a comic book author. So far, tell me in the comments right now, is so far any of this making you get the feel that Jeff Johns is a hardcore racist? Because so far from what I've read, so what I've said, it's just that Jeff Johns kind of has to play mediator between Joss Whedon and him. And they're like, look, we got to stay away from the stereotype of the angry black male. So could you just smile more, say booyah. Anyway, because at the end of the day, director is in charge. And if the director is Joss Whedon and Joss Whedon says, this is what we're doing, shut up, eat your cake, that's probably the problem. Justice League producer Charles Roven, a veteran on DC superhero films dating back to Batman Begins in 2005, he said, I fully empathize with Ray that his character arc was significantly altered and shortened. I have also collaborated with Jeff over many years and found him to be a gracious and humble man. Jeff took it upon himself to put Cyborg in the Justice League comics in the first place. Is that actually true? Because I know he was in the Teen Titans, but okay. And has written more about the character than any other individual except for the creator. He loves the character Cyborg. So let's juxtapose this position with what Ray is saying. Like Ray's like, look, it's one thing to write about a black character. It's another thing to have a black actor play that character and bring that perspective. And then Jeff Johns is kind of saying, well, here's the thing. I've been writing this character for many years. I might understand this character better than you do. Even not that he said that, but maybe that's his perspective. That I love Cyborg. I'm the one who brought him to the Justice League. Let's keep going. All these tensions were played out during an extremely stressful time at the studios. AT&T's $85 billion acquisition of Time Warner, which was announced in October 2016, but didn't close until June 2018, was still pending. Justice League with a $300 million proposition, and it was troubled. Warner's had not been able to match Disney's consistent success with Marvel's movies. Fisher felt that some of the studio decision-making was driven by fear of losing their jobs. Possibly. Absolutely. No doubt. Why do you think they brought Joss Whedon in? They wanted to make sure that we were thinking, because remember, these are the same executives that hired Zack. At least some of them. And now they're kind of looking stupid right now. They're like, oh, crap. BVS didn't make $1 billion. Let's get Joss Whedon. The tension only escalated when the issue of having... See, now I think this was a stupid issue on both their sides. Let's get into this. The tension only escalated when the issue of having Cyborg say booyah arose. That phrase had become a signature of the character thanks to the animated Teen Titans show. But the character had never said it in the comics or the original script. I'll be honest with you, up until maybe 5 years ago, I didn't really know much about Cyborg. What I knew about Cyborg was they said booyah. I know it's stupid, but I know that that's kind of associated with him because of the show. And yes, you know what else wasn't in the comics or in the original script? Harley Quinn. Kind of made her up in the cartoons, and now she's great. Now, did I need him to say booyah? No. I could have cared less. He doesn't say it in Snyder Cut. But, like, I feel like now this next argument that's about to happen right now could have been avoided. Here we go. Fisher says that Johns had approached Snyder about including the line, but the director didn't want any catchphrases. He managed the situation by putting the word on some signs on his version of the film, like an Easter egg. Okay. But Johns' rep says the entire studio believed the booyah line was a fun moment of synergy. What do you got? If the Snyder Cut had the line booyah, would you have been upset? Yeah, let's talk. Guys, I keep checking to see if you guys are writing comments. Caden is staying silent. Billy Roberts, let's talk. Yeah, let's talk. There's still more to go through here. If you guys want to put comments, and we can take a pause because there's a lot more to go through here. We're only halfway done. Jesus Christ. Fisher says he doesn't see the word itself as an issue, but he thought it played differently in a live action film than in the animated series. Agreed. And he thought of black characters in pop culture with defining phrases. Gary Coleman's "What you talking about, Willis?" Jimmy Walker's "Dynamite." I don't know if you guys have any other idea who those characters are, as no one else in the film had a catchphrase. He says it seemed weird to only have a black character say that. Again, that's an inference that maybe he might be seeing too much into it, because do any other superheroes really have, like, does Batman have one? Let's just say, "I'm Batman." Is that really a catchphrase? Maybe. Superman, does he really have a catchphrase? You know, truth, justice, in the American way. We don't say that anymore. Does Wonder Woman really have a catchphrase? So booyah is, for him to say, this is where he said that no one else had a catchphrase. That would be the case if they were given one. But yeah, he's associated with the line booyah. And now he's saying, well, he thought of other black characters in pop culture with pop culture defining phrases. What about Arnold Schwarzenegger? "I'll be back." I mean, there are plenty of white characters that have pop culture catchphrases. Again, this is where I thought Ray was now being a little bit oversensitive. I understand where he's coming from, because there's a lot more stuff in this, and oh my God, my neck is hurting. With reshoots underway, Fisher says Whedon raised the issue again. Now, this is where you kind of see how Whedon's a bit of a jerk, a meanie. "Jeff tells me that Cyborg has a catchphrase," he told him. Fisher says he expressed his objections, and it seemed the matter was dropped until Berg, the co-chairman of DC Films and a producer on the project, took him to dinner. "This is one of the most expensive movies Warner's has ever made," Berg said, according to Fisher. "What if the CEO of AT&T has a son or daughter, and that son or daughter wants Cyborg to say booyah in the movie, and we don't have a take of that? I could lose my job." Interesting that was used, that he's just saying, like, look, I could lose my job, because this is how it is. As I said earlier, some of the executives are afraid of losing their job. The last two big DCU movies didn't really perform as well as they'd hoped, so they're kind of worried. And he expressed skepticism that the film's fate rested on Cyborg saying booyah. Because again, they're thinking like Marvel, like, oh, what Cyborg says booyah. So we got to do these Marvel things, you know, that characters have got to do their tropes, you know, and Cyborg's trope is booyah. So they're kind of reducing Cyborg to just tropes. And I can see maybe, yeah, well, he's kind of upset. He's like, you're taking the character, turning him to something else. But he shot the take. And this is where the douchebaggery comes in. As he arrived on set, he says, Whedon stretched out his arms and said a line from Hamlet in a mocking tone. "Speak the speech, I pray you, as I pronounced it to you." Was he trying to be funny, or was he making fun of the fact that you did not want to do this line and now you have to do it? Bit douchey. Fisher replied, "Joss, don't. I'm not in the mood." As he left the set after saying just that one phrase for the camera, he says Whedon called out, "Nice work, Ray." Okay. Now, did he mean that as a sarcastic way, like, "Nice work, Ray"? Or was it like, "Nice work, Ray"? You had to say a line you didn't want to say, but you said it. Move on. We don't know. Even before that line was shot, Fisher's agent had called Warner Film Studio Chief Emmerich. So this is another thing that happens, going over their heads. Fisher's agent had called Warner Film Studio chief Toby Emmerich, to raise concerns about what was happening on set. After Fisher arrived in Los Angeles for additional photography in summer 2017, Johns asked him to come to the DC offices in Burbank. When they met in a conference room, Fisher said he had apologized to Whedon for his part in the conflict. Okay, that's nice of him to do, which he had done in the hope of preventing a rupture within the DC team. So it's not that he's guilty. Sometimes to be a bigger man, you don't have to apologize, but what you do is you kind of, wave a white flag, sort of. So that's what he did. Johns responded that having agents call Emmerich Johns responded that having agents call Emmerich was just not cool. Okay, so that I do understand. If you ever worked in the corporate office, let me see. You think it's possible Ray plays Cyborg ever again? I don't know. I really don't know. I honestly, you're gonna hear about the meeting with Hamada. I think Hamada they could work it out. This is Hollywood. You ever seen politics? How ugly politics is? One second they hate each other, next second they're best friends. I think it could work out. The line was cringe. You could tell there was no heart in it. All right, talking about Booyah. Ew. Speak the speech, I pray you, as I pronounced it to you. So in corporate America and offices, it's very risky to go over someone's head. It's not just about ego, it's about respect. You don't want to go over someone's head after they've told you something, even if it's, but I think Ray felt that he was obligated, that he was entitled, that, look, I got to say this. I got to tell people what was said. Fisher recalls, he said, I consider us to be friends, which he knew we were not. And I just don't want you to make a bad name for yourself in the business. Fisher took that as a threat. John's rep says he never made a threat, but told Fisher that creative differences were normal. So here's the thing. There are two ways to look at this. Was Jeff Johns making a threat, or is he just letting him know how it is? Because yes, if you are an actor that goes over other directors' heads to talk to the studio higher-ups, other directors will not hire you. They will look at that and say, this actor or this actress, this is what she or he did on the set of that movie. We won't hire them. There's a reason certain actors, you will not see them in movies anymore. No one wants to work with them because of stuff like that, even if it's justified. So it's very much possible, playing devil's advocate, that Jeff Johns wasn't threatening him, but telling him, like, dude, you don't want that to get out, that you did that. Because remember, Ray's kind of new to Hollywood. He's not a veteran. Because as far as we know, only one other person did that. It was Gal Gadot, but she did it with Patty Jenkins, which is where we're going to the next paragraph. Fisher was not the only Justice League star who was unhappy. Sources say Whedon clashed with all the stars of the film, including Jeremy Irons. Who argues with Jeremy Irons? I have no problem with you. And one Justice League star ended up taking her complaints not only to the head of the film studio, but also the chairman of Warner Brothers. A knowledgeable source says that Gal had multiple concerns with the revised version of the film, including issues about her character being more aggressive than her character in Wonder Woman. She wanted to make the character flow from one movie to the next. So interesting. Gal had an issue with Wonder Woman being more aggressive than her character in Wonder Woman. Because I would say that she's less aggressive in Justice League than she was in Wonder Woman. And I would argue that she's a lot more aggressive in Snyder Cut. I don't know how to read that. There was all the chit-chat today. Yeah, I know. Everyone's kind of here. We have 11 people watching. Come on in. Join us in the comments section. What do you guys think? Is Jeff Johns a neo-Nazi? Let's find out. Do more for DC stuff. Yeah, I figured there'd be more people also, because this is a big deal. But you know what it is? I think everyone and their moms is doing this article right now. But only someone with my vast intellect. No, I'm just joking. Can handle it. But do you guys agree that she was more aggressive in Joss Whedon's Justice League than she was in? Is that what they're saying? Including issues about her character being more aggressive than her character in Wonder Woman. She wanted to make the character flow from one movie to the next. But she didn't have a problem with Zack Snyder's take on it? Whatever. The biggest clashes came, to say, when Whedon pushed Gadot to record lines she didn't like, threatened to harm Gadot's career, and disparaged Wonder Woman director Patty Jenkins. While Fisher declines to discuss any of what transpired with Gadot, a witness on the production who later spoke to investigators says after one class, Joss was bragging that he's had it out with Gal. He's told her he's the writer and she's going to shut up and say the lines, and he can make her look incredibly stupid in this movie. So I wouldn't surprise if that happens. That happens a lot of sets. Some directors are just like that. Even the ones you love, even the ones that we like, are kind of like that. They are very antagonistic. They want to do things their way. And if you've ever written something and had someone criticize it, you can get that way too. You're like, shut up, I wrote this. I know what I'm doing, you stupid so-and-so. You know. Okay, but a knowledgeable source says that Gadot and Jenkins went to battle, culminating in a meeting with then Warner's chairman, Kevin Sujihara. Asked for a comment, Gadot says at the statement, I had my issues with Whedon and Warner Brothers and handled it. Warner Brothers handled it in a timely manner. See, that is politics. That is politics. Look how she responds. Gadot says, I've had my issues with Whedon and Warner Brothers handled it in a timely manner. Beautiful. That's politics right there. Do you think that's exactly what happened? No, but she knows how to play the game. She's a smart lady. 3 months after Justice League hit theaters, Whedon exited Batgirl project. Batgirl is an exciting product, and Warner Brothers ECU. It took me months to realize I really didn't have a story, he said at the time. I don't believe that for a second. When Justice League opened in November 2017, the film was panned. It has a 40% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, grossed a disappointing $658 worldwide. Berg exited his job that December. Johns departed the following June. But Whedon was still part of the Warner Media universe. In 2018, July, a few months after he left Batgirl, HBO greenlit his drama, The Nevers, straight to series. But in November 2020, a couple of weeks before Warner Media said it had taken remedial steps after its investigation in Justice League, Whedon left that project too. So this is interesting because so much has happened. She was not more aggressive. Yeah, so I don't know what the argument was. Was she saying to him that she wanted to be more aggressive? I don't know. But what's interesting is about the Whedon thing. So they did let him go, possibly because of the investigation. But you're going to find out later, Walter Hamada didn't really see Jeff Johns as guilty. And I don't think Jeff Johns is as guilty. I'm not saying he's not guilt-free. I'm just saying he's not as guilty as Joss Whedon, because what Joss did is backed up by other people and actors from other shows. But let's get into it. You know what, guys? I'm going to zoom this in. Let me know if you guys can read this. I'm going to zoom this in a little bit more. Is that better for you guys to read? Jenkins had Joss Whedon fired from bed. Might be true. Might be true. It's possible. Smash that like button. Yeah, smash that like button. Ooh, boy. Let's go. This time, Whedon said he was not up to the physical challenges of making such a huge show during a global pandemic. Warner's issued a clip that we have parted ways with Joss Whedon. Okay, so guys, when stuff is worded like that, that usually means he was fired. But they know that it's politics. You know, I was let go. Let go means you were fired. But, okay, that's fine. They moved on. The question now goes into Hamada, and this is where we're going in next. Fisher went on to play Mahershala Ali's sane son. He called the rating, including okay. But in the coming months, he would hear fresh reports about what had gone on behind the scenes on Justice League, including the angry black man conversation and other allegations involving Jeff Johns. Two individuals who worked on Sci-Fi's Krypton TV series talked to Fisher about events that had taken place on the series. This is interesting. So that's Ray Fisher and Mahershala Ali. Oh my God, Mahershala Ali looks like Morgan Freeman in there. Damn. Just let me know if you guys could read it well. Multiple sources tell The Hollywood Reporter that the show's creators were passionate about doing some non-traditional casting, and that Regé Jean Page, that is his name, Regé Jean Page, would go on to become a breakout star of Bridgerton, had auditioned for the role of Superman's grandfather. But Johns, who was overseeing the project, said that Superman could not have a black grandfather. The creators also wanted to make one superhero character, Adam Strange, gay or bisexual, but sources say John vetoed the idea. Jeff celebrates and supports LGBTQ characters, including Batwoman, who in 2006 was reintroduced as LGBTQ in a comic book series co-written by Johns, says Johns rep in an email. Johns also pitched Warner's on developing a television show around the first LGBTQ lead DC superhero television series. He adds, as for the role of Superman's grandfather, the rep believed that Johns expected the character to look more like a young Henry Cavill. Okay, so again, this is not something, look, if you guys think that he was being homophobic or racist, I don't see that because Superman is normally white. So if he casted someone of color as his grandfather, you know, like how would you guys feel like if Silas Stone was played by Jackie Chan? Wouldn't you be like, oh, okay, so he's black, but his dad is Chinese? And Zack Snyder's like, no, we're gonna cast a black guy because Ray Fisher's black and his father's gonna be like. Again, I think this is maybe the author getting a little too woke. And look, I don't think Jeff is anti-LGBTQ. Adam Strange, gay or bisexual. John's vetoed the idea. Just because they don't want to make a character gay doesn't mean he's anti-gay. But this is when paragraphs like this, you got to read beyond like sometimes what the author is writing. If they're trying to paint one person in a bad light, like he didn't want to make Adam Strange gay, it's because he hates gays. That's kind of like what they're trying to imply here. Only read the facts, folks. Several sources who spoke to Fisher around this time were willing to talk to Warner's investigators. Among them was Nadia Trigger. Okay, so this is another thing. Here we go. Nadria Tucker, who tweeted February 24th, quote, I haven't spoken to Jeff Johns today on Krypton when he tried to tell me what is and is not a black thing. This again. Tucker tells the Hollywood Reporter that Johns objected when a black female's character's hairstyle was changed in scenes that took place on different days. I said, black women, we tend to change our hairs frequently. It's not that weird. It's a black thing, she says. And he said, no, it's not. Okay, yeah, that is kind of awkward. But I also know that on sets, they like actors to kind of keep the same hairstyle for a season so that they look consistently the same. And maybe he took that comment to be sarcastic. Like if I did something in the director, I'm like, oh, it's what Pakistani people is like. No, they don't. But here's what's interesting. What we learn about Jeff Johns in the next paragraph. I did not know this. Not physically birthed, so they can be any race. Kal-El is the first in a long time that was physically born Kryptonian. Were his parents depicted as black? I mean, I don't know. I saw like the first, second episode, but I don't know if I ever. I don't really care either way. I don't watch Krypton, but if he says no, but again, my question is that a case to say that he's a racist? That's where I kind of get a little bit. I'm like, let's wait. Now this is where I'm talking about right here. I said black women need to change her hair. If he said that to her, no, it's not. He shouldn't have said that way. He could have said, oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting. But for the sake of the scenes, we want your character to look consistent. I don't know. I'm just saying if he said it like that, that's not cool. And here we go. But this is something I didn't know. John's spokesperson said that we were a standard continuity. Yeah, there we go. What were standard continuity notes for a scene are being spun in a way that are not only personal offensive to Jeff, but the people that know who he is, know the work he's done, and know the life he's lived. As Jeff has personally seen firsthand the painful effects of racial stereotypes concerning hair and other cultural stereotypes, having been married to a black woman who he's with for a decade, and with his second wife, who is Asian American, as well as a son who's mixed race. So, could he have been referring to the fact that he's married to a black woman? Like, if someone were to, like, let's say my girlfriend is white, right? And someone says to me, like, oh, that's how white women are. And I'm like, no, they're not. So, how would you know? You're not a white woman. I was like, no, I date a white woman. You know, so he dated a black woman for 10 years. That's kind of okay. And he's half Lebanese. I did not know that. Salaam alaikum, Jeff Johns. Now, could he have worded that better by just saying, no, it's not, as in to presume to tell her? Yeah, but by late 2020, Fisher went public with dissatisfaction at what he viewed as Warner's inactions. For their part, Warner sources contend that Fisher was being manipulated by Snyders. Okay, so this is that Jody stuff right here. Do you guys remember a couple of months ago, Jody's Corner's like, I got this news for you. I got this news for you. And I'm mad. And he went through this whole thing about like Zack Snyder was paid to come out and make this stuff up. That is kind of crazy because why is Zod able to be black but not Grandpa Suits? Oh, I don't know. Oh, that's what Ray Fisher just tweeted. Does anyone know what DC Talk extended Twitter is? That's a good question. I actually don't know. But Jody's Corner, guys, if you guys know what DC Talks extended Twitter is, post it in the comments. What's his name? Just Zod is able to produce Black Server, not Grandpa Soups. I don't know. I have not seen Krypton. Is he black in Krypton? Here we go. So here we go. This is the Jody's Corner stuff. Fisher, for their part, Warner sources contend. Oh, the Hollywood Reporter would not be saying this unless someone actually told him this. Contend that Fisher was being manipulated by Snyder, who hoped to reclaim control of the DC film universe. Now, I don't know if I believe that, but the fact that certain people in Warner Brothers feel that way, this is what that guy Jody at Jody's Corner was saying a couple of months ago. I'm like, what is wrong with this guy? Why would he make up something so asinine? But he said, I have sources who told me that this is what's happening. And he talked about Clay Enos and all that stuff. Interesting. So someone may have very well told Jody that that's what they think. Now, unless they have actual proof of conversations between Zack and Ray talking on camera, like, this is what I want you to do. That's just an assumption. But anyway, Fisher says that the assertion that a black man would not have his own agency is just as racist as the conversations Warner leadership was having about the Justice League reshoots. Maybe. I've been underestimated at every turn during this process, and that is what has led us to this point. Had they taken me seriously as they should have from the beginning, they would not have made as many foolish mistakes as they did in the process. Snyder denies any role in influencing Fisher. Okay. Again, unless someone was in a room and has proof of what conversations were had between Zack and Ray, the Warner's executives, or whoever is sourced with that implication, or that inference, rather, you got to prove to me. You got to prove to me that you have proof that Zack Snyder's manipulating Ray Fisher. You got to show me the proof. Show me the proof. And again, this goes back to Jody, you said that O'Clean said those guys are getting theirs. They're going to get theirs, but whatever. Tweeting footage of himself praising Whedon at Comic-Con in 2017, Fisher wrote, I'd like to take a moment to forcefully retract every bit of the statement. His earlier words have been based on studio, so that talking points, yeah, it happens. There we go. Whedon's set was on-set behavior was gross, abusive, unprofessional, completely unacceptable. He added, was enabled in many ways by Jeff Johns and John Berg. He did not elaborate. So this is the part where, from what I've seen before, if Jeff Johns and John Berg were kind of playing middlemen between Joss Whedon and the cast, that is sometimes a difficult role. That doesn't mean that they handle things well, but if they found out that Joss was doing the stuff that he was doing and they really didn't stop it, it goes back to what John Berg was saying. We have to make Joss happy. We have to make Joss happy. And that's their fault. But on the other hand, I also understand that they have to get a $300 million. And both these guys lost their, let's be honest, they lost their jobs. They were transferred to other divisions, but really, they lost their jobs. They had a job right over here. There we go. Tyler says, here we go. We have conversations. I finally blew up Ryan enough. Oh, you guys are talking to each other. We miss you. I miss everyone. Il Divino Vega. Hello. DC's, here we go. Prakash Swain. Namaste, Prakash. Says that DC's Twitter handle is D-Main Stokely 9. They could be something else. Yeah, the gang is all here. We in here, TY. All right, guys. Keep talking in the chats. Berg told Variety it was categorically untrue that we enabled. Well, here's the thing. If you can't deny that there was any. Okay, we enabled it. If you knew it was going on, and we know it was going on, we know from Gal Gadot, we know from Jason Momoa. Let's say Ray Fisher's a liar, fine. But those two said it was going on. Patty Jenkins knows it was going on. Let's jump to Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel. Michelle Trachtenberg said it was going on. Charisma Carpenter said it was going on. Amber Benson said it was going on. Sarah Michelle Gellar said it was going on way back then. So if you know this is happening and they've talked to you about it and you don't do anything, then yeah, you are kind of enabling it. I understand that Berg and Johns are kind of in a tough position. They have a $300 million movie that's going extensive reshoots to satisfy Marvel fans because that's what happened. They wanted to make Marvel fans happy. Let's make a movie that they'll like. Let's get Joss Whedon. I get you're in a tough position. You hire Joss Whedon and you're thinking this guy's going to make something as good as the Avengers, and he makes something that's not even as good as, I don't know, Batman and Robin. But if you don't do anything, then yeah, you're all kind of enabling bad behavior. Oh, look, that man is beating that woman. I am not guilty since I'm not doing anything. I'll look over here. Yeah, could you at least call 911? No. I don't want to use up the battery on my phone. If you don't do anything, then yeah, you're enabling it. He added that Fisher, again, I think this is Ray was wrong. Just say the goddamn line and just move on with your life. No one even remembers that line. As Fisher continued to air grievances on social media and in some interviews, he began to suspect that when he tweeted, the studio would put out an announcement to distract from his message. On July 1st, the day that Fisher tweeted about Whedon's behavior, Deadline published an exclusive saying Warner's was making a live-action Frosty the Snowman. Who the hell wants to see that with Aquaman voicing the iconic snowman? A few weeks later, Momoa pushed back on Instagram. I think it's effed up that people released a fake Frosty announcement without my permission to try to distract Ray Fisher. Speaking about I'm going to use the crappy way we were treated on Justice League reshoots, he wrote. Serious stuff went down, it needs to be investigated, and people need to be held accountable. So I'm kind of curious if Jason and Gal were saying accountability over entertainment, were they just referring to Joss Whedon, or do you think they're also referring to, John Berg or Jeff Johns? I don't know. I hope Ray comes back. I hope so too. I think he nailed the character. Absolutely. I feel like AT&T needs to put their foot down with the whole situation. So do I. And this article by the Hollywood Reporter, I think could do some. Hollywood Reporter is big. This is what actual critics write for. If you don't stand for something, you fall for anything. To some degree. Definitely nailed it. It's 4:20 a.m. here. Woke up early for the show. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry I got to do the show earlier because I got to go to work. And oh my God, 7 minutes. Wake and bake. Prakash 4:20. And yeah, you guys, India's oh my God, almost 20 hours ahead. Yikes. All right, let me go through this. There we go. In early June, Fisher spoke with Walter Hamada, who had taken the reins of DC Films. He said that Hamada called Joss an asshole. Good. At least that's an admittance. And said, and this is what I said when we were talking about this months ago. Look at Walter Hamada. I'm just looking to get past anything to do with Justice League. Joss isn't here anymore, and I don't plan on hiring him again. Okay. But according to Fisher, Hamada said he did not believe Johns had done anything wrong. I don't know John Berg very well. I know Joss was difficult, but Jeff, Ray, he's really getting dragged through the mud, and I'm sure you're getting your share of hate too. Fisher responded, I'm fine with the hate because I know I'm telling the truth. He asked for an investigation. So, and they give it to him. Let's be clear, they give it to him. Later that month, the studio's HR department contacted Fisher. He says he spoke with two executives for about 2 hours. He adds that he offered specific allegations of abusive behavior towards himself and others and provided the name of some witnesses. He was weary because HR departments are known to show more allegiance to employers than complaining parties. That is true. He became even more suspicious. He says the witnesses started telling him they had not been contacted. Fisher requested an independent investigator and asked SAG AFTRA. That's the American Federation of Television something. Okay, part of the SAG, Screen Actors Guild, to have a rep with him in the process. Mid-August, a Warner's HR executive told Fisher that an outside investigator had been approved, but his guard went up when the executive said, we really like him. We worked with him before. Still, Fisher tweeted that this represented a massive step forward. If at this point Ray is trying to implicate Jeff Johns, and I think it might, and part of it is the fact that there's disharmony between them. He may be reaching too far. If the best he can do with is that he said something on the show Krypton, and that what was it? The other thing he mentioned that his issue with Jeff Johns was that they had discussions about having an angry black man. Again, that's a part of the woke culture. They're trying to avoid stereotypes. I'm not saying I agree with that decision, but I also understand where they're. Every corporation right now is worried about not looking woke. They're like, well, how do we not offend this person? What if we do this? What if we do that? Oh, my goodness. We want to make sure that everyone knows we're woke. Let's not have a stereotype. Okay, but let's continue. But then Warner's veteran told Fisher not to trust the investigation if a particular studio exec was overseeing it because the person had previously helped sweep misconduct under the rug. So again, I need to know what that misconduct that was swept under the rug was. When he spoke to the investigator, Fisher asked how many times he had worked for the studios. He declined to answer. Okay. Fisher asked who was overseeing the inquiry and said he would have an issue if the executive named his contact. Okay, so that is a bit fishy. You don't know who he's reporting to. He still got no answer, feeling the situation felt pretty dodgy. Fisher went no further, basically trying to imply that maybe this whole investigation, third person party investigation is just like it's masturbation. Like, oh yeah, we're doing something real serious over here, but really they're part of the expression, the gesture. But my point is like, yeah, we have an investigator, the judge, lawyer, Supreme Court advocate. He works for, yeah, he's doing everything. Like they're just. They're not really doing everything. Yeah. So, and I'm not judging I'm just saying that's the world they're in. They're like, if I could totally see it. I could totally see, like, let's say they kept the stuff in and people are like, why did they make the one black character really aggressive and they removed his manhood? I feel like they're trying to say something. Why did Zack Snyder remove his manhood? Okay, what you're trying to do is trying to take the power of the black man away, and it's actually a white supremacist. People do shit like that all the time. I'm not saying, so I can understand why if they were like, oh, let's not make him angry. It's a stupid decision, but that's the world we live in. Sell DC to Netflix. I don't know about Netflix. Although Netflix did a good job with Marvel stuff, some of it. August 26th. The investigator provided a name, citing an attorney in the general counsel's office. When Fisher looked at the Warner Media website, he found this individual was the only black attorney whose headshot was visible. Okay. And the fact that lawyer had nothing to do with the investigation, she handled matters for HBO Max, TBS, and TNT. Fisher wondered if naming her had been a simple mistake or a ploy to lull him into a sense of security, with the idea that she might be on the same team as me simply by way of her being a black person. I don't know. Or maybe she just was a good lawyer. See, this is where when you're inferring things like, oh, they put a picture of a black person to make, maybe they did. They probably do stuff like that. Or maybe she just happened to be the only black lawyer who was part of the team. We don't know. And see, this is where I think Ray kind of stretches it. Maybe he's seeing race in everything. He just takes everything as like they said their favorite Metallica album was the Black Album. Were they just saying that to make me happy because I'm black? Metallica, Black Album. See, like then you're stretching things. And look, he has reason to be pissed, but then maybe it's the only black lawyer in that firm. Who knows? Let's move on. Feeling ever more distrustful, Fisher continued to tweet. This is where I thought maybe Ray might have overstepped his bounds. Writing on September 4th that Hamada had thrown Whedon and Berg under the bus while covering for Johns. Unfortunately, it's not until I start talking about people specifically the needle starts to move, he says. If they were going to continue to cover things up, I was not going to let that happen. Ooh, boy. Fisher then got a call from Berg, who said he was sorry the actor had appalling experience on Justice League and hadn't been able to help. Okay. Even if it's a fake apology, an apology nonetheless. Acknowledging that a bunch of straight white men had been running things. I don't care. If a movie's good, they could be straight, transgender, black people. I don't care. Who cares who runs? I want a good product. Good product is what's important to me. Who cares who makes it? Like I'm Pakistan. Does that mean I want a Justice League 2 made by Pakistanis? Ooh, it'd be awful. Be awful. Have you ever seen Indian dramas? You want a Justice League movie like that? I don't care who's making the movie, as long as it's a good movie. Acknowledging that a bunch of straight white men have been running things, he hoped the studio would improve with that in the future. And look, bring in diversity. But I don't care who makes it. Berg said he had spoken with the investigator at length and truthfully said, I let him know that it did mean a lot to me, Fisher says. I am not beyond forgiveness when it comes to this kind of stuff. It was a very big thing for him to do. No one else in the process reached on. The studio, meanwhile, defended itself the other day. At no time did Mr. Hamada throw anyone under the bus. As Mr. Fisher has falsely claimed or render any judgments about the Justice League production in which Mr. Hamada had no involvement. So that is fair. Hamada had nothing to do with it. Fisher saw that as a smear. In October, top Warner Media execs spoke with Fisher and his team, including a rep from SAG-AFTRA. I'm going to say that. When Fisher pressed a question about how the investigator had to come provide the name of an in-house attorney who had nothing to do with the inquiry, a Warner Media executive on call responded that the investigator had just pulled the name off the internet. Christy Hallbegger, head of communications at Warner Media and the company's top inclusion officer, said the studio statement that Fisher had refused to cooperate with the investigation had been based on third-hand information. So that was a bad look for Warner Brothers when they said, he's not cooperating. And they're like, hey, here's the conversation of me with the investigator on Twitter, talking with the investigator. So that was based on third-hand information. Again, doesn't look good. The studio's an apology would have been nice from the studio. Communication department had been responding emotionally to Fisher's public allegations against Hamada, adding, I think they believed that what they were saying was true. Fisher wondered why anyone at the studio, which was ostensibly the subject of the investigation, would comment at all. Pressed by Fisher, Hallbegger declined to say who at the studio had approved the statement, but said she was furious when she read it. I made it 100% crystal clear to everyone in the Warner Brothers communication organization that not a goddamn word can be said about Ray Fisher. If I catch anyone doing that, they're fired. Okay. Was anyone fired? Fisher says he asked for apology repeatedly in the weeks that follow. Warner Media kicked around some language that he felt short. But here's the thing. When you're working in politics, you sometimes have to just, play the game. Hallberger told Fisher, I don't think if people said something they believed was true, that there's an apology needed. Ew. That's not good. I don't think that if people said they believe something was true, that there's an apology needed. But if it's not true, I believe that 2 + 2 is Jell-O. It's not true, but I believe it. No, you still got to apologize for misinformation. Especially the fact that you put it out there publicly that he did not cooperate. And you'd think that they just wrote that statement without vetting it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it for a New York Minute. After the studio had put out the statement accusing him not cooperating with what Fisher calls a true hit piece, he asked for another investigator. Warner Media agreed to bring in Forrest, who told them they had handled investigation and ousted CEO Sugihara. Fisher was initially optimistic, but says he turned wary when Forrest, who is white, led with the fact that she was an Obama appointee. I don't care about her being white, and I don't care even less that she was an Obama appointee. That doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. Again, this is when you're looking a little too into things. Still, Fisher was somewhat optimistic because he believed Forrest's previous Sugihara investigation had exposed alleged misconduct, and Sugihara left. But she told him she hadn't completed that inquiry before Sugihara left. Instead, he left after the THR published an article about his entanglement with aspiring actress Charlotte Kirk. Initially, Fisher was told Forrest would work alongside the original investigator. He objected, and the original investigator withdrew. In December, Fisher says that he and his rep had a final conversation with Forrest during which he said remedial action had been taken, some of which she said Fisher had probably seen, but she was not explicit. She said further remedial action would be taken, but again did not offer specifics, but she told Fisher she did not find evidence of racial animus. And if that's what it comes down to, maybe there isn't that much. If the best we can do is that they just said we don't want to portray a stereotype of a black man, and the other one is that he said something on a set of Krypton, that a black woman said something about black women, and the white guy's like, yeah, my wife's black. That's not true. I mean, if that's the best they can come up with Jeff Johns, I got to say, at least on that thing, I'm not convinced that's racial animus. And I don't know if I would say that about Walter Amada, who's trying to play peacemaker. I don't like any of these people anyway. I want the Snyderverse restored, Jason Kilar. But playing devil's advocate, I'm trying to be fair here. To Fisher, the information Forrest shared was so limited that it seemed the purpose was clear. She was only authorized by Warner Media to attempt to explain away anything to do with race. Possibly also, I need to know what those witnesses said. I really do. because he's not letting this go. And I don't think he would be letting it go if it wasn't serious. I need to know what the witnesses said. And I know everything until then is just hearsay, but we'll see. Here we go. On the evening of December 11th, Warner's issued a statement saying investigation was finished in what Fisher calls a Friday night news dump. Witnesses contacted him by what happened, asking him what happened, but he had no answers. A week later, he pressed Hallbigger and other execs for information. Then closure. Fisher said he would not provide witness. Okay. In February, he tweeted Hamada was the most dangerous kind of enabler. See, now, when he said stuff like this, that might be true. Ben Franklin, I'm going to get a little preachy here, once said something to John Adams: never insult a person in public. You can do it to them in private. They might even thank you for that, but never do it in public because they think you might mean it. And he tweeted that Hamada was the most dangerous kind of enabler who had shown that he would blindly cover for his colleagues and worked with studio to destroy a black man's credibility. Who cares if you're black? See, this is where I think when he starts playing that game a little bit, I think he goes a little too far, and publicly delegitimize a very serious investigation with lies in the press. Fisher says he was referring to the September statement that Fisher had refused to cooperate with the investigation, which he feels Hamada must have known about in advance. See, then he can't say stuff like that. This is where I'm going to go against him. He's the most dangerous kind of enabler who would violently cover for his colleagues to destroy a black man's credibility. Oh, I'm referring to something that was a September statement, which I feel Hamada must have known about. See, this is where I think you have to be very careful with your language. You don't know whether Hamada did have anything to know about that. It might have been someone at Warner Media. It might have been someone at AT&T. But, you got to be careful. You can't just, that's just an assumption. You got to be careful because you're calling him a dangerous enabler and then saying, well, I'm assuming he had something to do with it. What if he didn't? What if he did? You don't know. Careful. Got to be careful. When you play the Game of Thrones, you know the line. The company responded with a statement from Forrest saying Hamada was credible and forthcoming and did nothing that impeded or interfered with the company's investigation. Fisher believes this missed the big picture. While he accused Hamada of undermining and tampering with the investigation in a series of tweets, he says they were specifically in reference to the conversation he had with Hamada in which the executive tried to dissuade Fisher from pursuing his grievances against John. Again, playing the middleman in the business world is very common. Here we go. Fisher does not, he says, believe that Hamada otherwise actively tried to interfere with the investigation. So he's saying outside the conversation I had with him about Jeff Johns, outside of that, I don't think what does he say? Otherwise actively tried to interfere with the event. So he really doesn't know. So then when you say stuff like he's an enabler because of something that tweeted in September, got to be careful. Before things had gone sour, Fisher was expected to play Cyborg. Fisher said he had a call with director Andy Machete, seemed positive. Discussion hit a snag when Warner's framed the 2-week shoot as a cameo. Only a fraction of what Fisher says he should have been paid for appearing as Cyborg. See, now other issues coming up. By late September, he's upset by ultimately the studios removed the Cyborg role. December 30th. We know about this. When I first spoke up, he's working. I don't believe some of these people are fit positions of leadership, says Fisher, who explains he's not looking for anyone to be fired. I don't want them excommunicated from Hollywood, but I don't think they should be in charge of the hiring and firing of other people. Fisher knows he's not going to win that battle, but he feels the point if I can get accountability, at least people be made of who they were. Okay, so yeah, I gotta go. I gotta go. Holy crap. Boy. For those of you who sat that, this went a lot longer than I wanted it to. That's a long. I want to thank you guys for sticking by that. Look, this seems that his attempts to go after Johns, I need to know what was said by the witnesses before I can render a judgment about that. Again, I'm not defending Jeff Johns, but I am playing devil's advocate because when it comes to the issue of race, I am very, very, very... Look, I'm a person of color, I've been told. If someone says, that person's a racist, I'm like, what did they say? what did they say? Now, our friend John Aaron Garza says he knows. He was on a show a couple of months ago, and he said, look, I know exactly because Ray told me off the record what was said, but I think that needs to come back. I think that needs to come out. If the only explanation we have is the whole issue with, black women and the hair thing, which was an ill-timed statement, but I give props for Ray for fighting, and it looks like I think Zack Snyder should hire him in his next project, whether it is DCU or not. I think Zack should do that because no one has fought harder and taken more hits than Ray Fisher has for Zack Snyder. Jason Momoa is silent right now. Gal Gadot is silent right now. They got big movies planned. Ben Affleck, he's working with George Clooney. He's fine. Ezra Miller got his movie. Ezra Miller was very silent, and they rewarded him. Warner Brothers rewarded him for his silence. That's the only way to put it. They rewarded him for his silence. This is it is a fascinating article. It is truly, I don't know what else to say. But I do want to thank all of you guys who are watching it. Oh boy, I do have to leave. I actually have to leave for work, but I do want to thank you guys for joining. Ty, you know what? I wanted to mention real quick. We will be doing Quick Dip tomorrow. Me and Justice are probably going to be doing Quick Dip tomorrow. We're working on a few things. It'll just be like this, a little less intense because this is a pretty long article. But I do want to thank all of you guys for joining us. I really appreciate it. Remember, if you're new to the channel, like and subscribe and share. We need the followers. We appreciate it. If you're interested in becoming a patron, I want to thank Caden Reed, Nick DePalma, ODD. Yeah, you know me, Odd, and that Juan Carlos. All right, I want to thank all those guys for joining us today. I want to thank all of you for joining us today. And I want to appreciate all of you who stuck by with us in the comments. I want to thank, here we go. Who do we have? Billy Roberts, you've been here for a full hour and a half. Caden, I want to thank you. Tyler, I want to thank you for sticking by and helping navigate. Prakash, thank you so much. I wish we had I hope you got all that in. That's a lot of stuff, and I honestly could go on another 25 minutes, but I got to be working 15. What was the Pakistani character I wanted more of, Jack? I want to thank you guys so much for joining us today. Ty, we'll be back soon. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Even if you're not watching this live, I highly, highly, highly encourage you, post your thoughts down in the comment section once the show is over. We will check them, and I would love to engage with you guys further. I want to thank you. I will see you tomorrow night. And remember, guys, we do it for you, and we do it for the culture.